Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Janelle Slade. A body found in Park City early this morning has authorities investigating what they're calling a suspicious death.
That body, discovered in the area behind the Park City post office, brings in local and state authorities to try and figure out what happened.
Now, authorities say the body was found partially concealed.
Q2's David J. standing by in the newsroom tonight with more details and the very latest. David?
Well, Russ, Jeanelle partially concealed and it's being investigated suspicious. The Stillwater County Sheriff's Office and the Montana Department of Justice's Division of Criminal Investigation have been on the case. Sheriff's deputies responded to a report of a partially concealed body a little after 7 this morning. Sheriff Charles Kim said in a news release that the deceased is a Caucasian male about 45 to 55 years old. And Kim says the DCI is assisting until the cause and manner of death has been confirmed. As of late this afternoon, the Sheriff's Office was not releasing any information on the suspects or the identity of the victim and said earlier there's not a threat to public safety. The Sheriff's Office spokesperson says an autopsy will be done on Thursday afternoon and more information may be available at that time. Jeanelle, Russ?
All right, thanks so much, David.
Today, the FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team joined in the search for 16-year-old Selena Not Afraid.
Now, the team that responds when a child under 18 is believed to be in danger is now set up at the county building in Hardin. Multiple law enforcement agencies have joined in this effort to locate Not Afraid, who's been missing since early New Year's Day. The Bureau of Indian Affairs has a command post at the rest area between Billings and Hardin, where Not Afraid was reportedly last seen.
Bighorn County Sheriff Pete Big Hair says authorities in Carbon and Yellowstone counties have also helped decipher what Big Hair calls conflicting stories from the 4 other individuals who were with Not Afraid on New Year's Eve.
We spoke with Sheriff Big Hair this afternoon, and he says investigators are now looking at gas stations for information on an old green station wagon.
Now, that car, possibly a Subaru with Wyoming plates, was seen at the rest area on January 1st.
A Billings man is facing a long prison sentence and millions of dollars in fines after he admits he trafficked more than $200,000 in drugs. 56-year-old Jerry Schuster pleaded guilty to conspiracy to possess and possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine. U.S. Attorney Kurt Alme says in May 2019, agents found 1 pound of meth in Schuster's trailer and another 30 pounds in his vehicle, plus $11,000 in cash. Now, the drugs alone had a street value of around $225,000. Schuster faces a minimum mandatory of 10 years to life in prison and a $10 million fine when he's sentenced on May 7th. Now, another defendant in the case, 62-year-old Bern Mestis of Billings, has pleaded not guilty.
Well, last year, the Montana legislature approved the sale of state bonds for the first time in many years to finance $80 million in big infrastructure projects. But now the governor's office says a disputed financial audit of the state's Medicaid program is putting those projects in jeopardy. MTN's Mike Dennison has the story.
The state planned to sell the $80 million in bonds to investors last November and use the money to finance scores of projects across the state, like water and sewer and bridge projects and renovating Romney Hall on the MSU campus or a new college dental clinic in Great Falls. But an obscure state office, the Legislative Audit Division, has said the state can't sell bonds unless it tells investors it might have to repay $130 million in Medicaid money to the federal government. The division bases that opinion on a financial audit of Medicaid, which provides government-funded medical coverage to 275,000 low-income Montanans. One problem, however, officials in the governor's office say the audit is wrong.
We think it's bad methodology, a series of questionable decisions, but it does stand in the way, and that as we go farther towards the construction season, the entire construction season could be at risk if we don't move quickly on bonding.
The audit division says the state may have made mistakes in determining who's eligible for Medicaid and thus the possible repayment. State health officials say the audit division is the one who made mistakes.
We know that many of the cases called into question were in fact determined eligible appropriately.
Legislative Auditor Angus McKeever says he can't comment while the audit and review are ongoing. So what happens now? The governor's office says it's exploring other options to finance the projects, but that whatever happens, it will cost the state more money. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Well, state legislators who are in charge of the audit division are also coming to Helena next week for a series of meetings and will address the issue in some manner then.
On the weather scene, bundle up. Q2 Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire joins us now. And Bob, we knew it was going to be cold, but now we're learning it's going to be brutal.
Very brutal. First, let me say thank you for bearing with me. I'm trying to get over the crud, and my voice ain't what it used to be. But let me tell you what we're going to see here. This is what's happening. You can see that pink stuff moving down into the Great Plains. That is some cold Arctic air is coming right off the top of the globe. Watch what happens. Here we are on Saturday, on into Sunday, and Monday, the thing just starts moving down into Montana. And you'll notice right on through Tuesday, we're looking at some really cold temperatures all hanging down around there. Stays with us throughout most of the week, and like on Friday, it starts to pull off and head towards the Dakotas. Now, how cold are we talking about? We'll take a look at this. We're looking at 30 below zero over at Yellowknife, 20 below zero temperatures over at Edmonton. So that's the kind of cold air we're talking about. That stuff is going to slowly but surely march its way back down to Montana. And because of that, the Billings National Weather Service put this on their website today. You'll notice up there on the right-hand side, lows to 30 below zero. I think here in Billings we'll probably see more like 14 below, but outside the city, we could be looking at sub-zero temperatures for highs and teens below zero for lows next week. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. Well, 2 people are confirmed dead after an avalanche hit an Idaho ski resort yesterday. 5 others were rescued, including one person who spent an hour buried under 9 feet of snow. And this morning, crews began searching the avalanche site of Wardener Peak for an overdue skier. At this time, about 30 search and rescue responders from multiple agencies are looking.
Well, the Montana Invasive Species Council met in Helena to discuss the threat of feral swine that they pose. Officials from the Department of Livestock warn that those pigs can be incredibly destructive predatory species with the ability to impact both rural and urban areas. Feral swine have yet to be spotted in Montana, but those pigs are encroaching from Canada. They've been seen as close as 5 miles on the Saskatchewan side of the border. Training state personnel and raising public awareness are currently top priorities, as well as creating a coordinated response plan for swine sightings between the agencies. Officials say the interest from the public on the subject has been great.
You know, what can they do? What are the rules pertaining to feral swine? Why should we be concerned? And so it's been really refreshing, and I think it's really helped kind of drive a lot of the progress forward on this issue. So we're going to try and continue to capitalize on that.
People are encouraged to report any suspected feral swine immediately by calling the 24-hour toll-free Squeal on Pigs hotline, which is listed there on the bottom of your screen.
A Montana hound dog with a survivor's heart is getting a second chance after he was shot in the shoulder and the bullet exited through his neck.
Now take a look here. This is Amos. Stafford Animal Shelter in Livingston tells us their rescue partners help every pet of Hardin found Amos on death's door. Shelter staff say Amos, sometimes calling him Famous Amos, was severely underweight and malnourished.
Now, since then, he's recovering nicely and as of today is officially adoptable.
He's ready to go. We're putting a little weight on him slowly, and he'll be a really good pet for somebody, especially a hound lover.
It's so rewarding to see these guys come in having had hard luck and just people coming together to get them into a happy home.
Well, the shelter ensures that Amos is good with people of all ages and even other dogs.
He just needs special attention and care as he moves forward with his recovery.
I hope he finds a good home.
Me too.
Well, there's more news from across our state on tonight's MTN 9 o'clock news. From koalas to kangaroos, Montanans come together to help all of the animals looking for safety from the devastating Australian wildfires. Join Jeanelle for that story and much more on tonight's statewide news on the CW.
But first, on tonight's 5:30 news, we take you inside the classroom where Governor Steve Bullock gives some local students a lesson in political civility.
And in sports, water damage forcing Rockies men and women off their home court so far this season. Scott shows us how close they are to finally returning.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 news on Q2, Montana's news leader.